Right, we'll start. Make a start. I'm just going to read the briefing note because we've got an online presence here as well. So, welcome councillors, officers, and members of the public to the meeting of Licensing and Community Safety Committee. Reminder: please switch your mobile phones to silent. There are members of the public or press attending this meeting virtually. Can I please ask those attending virtually to switch off your microphone to avoid any disruption during the meeting? The meeting is being recorded and will be available in due course on the council YouTube channel. And a reminder for councillors to ensure that those attending virtually and in person can hear the proceedings, and for the recording to capture the entire meeting, please ensure that you project your voice and speak clearly. Please remember it is a formal meeting and therefore do not refer to each other by first names. There is no fire alarm planned, therefore if the fire alarm sounds, officers will direct you to the nearest exit from the meeting room onto the car park. Thank you very much. Right, I'm going to start then, thank you. Item 1, apologies for absence.
Yes, so I've received apologies for absence from councillors Booth, Renshaw, Williams and Whitehead.
Very much. Item 2, to approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 14th of May 2024, pages 5 to 10 attached. Do I have a mover? You know, seconder, thank you. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. That was unanimous. Recorded here. Item 3, items brought forward which in the opinion of the chair should be considered by the meeting as a matter of urgency. Just a couple of little reminders really. You should have had some emails related to some training by Boxfish. One is about personal security and the other one was about cyber security. They don't take very long to fill out and do, they're quite interesting. So if you wouldn't mind just finding those emails and clicking the link and doing that training, that would be great. I'm not sure how many haven't participated.
I believe it's only 7 who've done
it from the whole council. Right, okay, so timely reminder then, thank you.
Thanks.
And also I'll remind you about there's a crime and disorder subcommittee. It's a subcommittee of this committee, which is taking place at 10 AM on the 13th of November at Casdown. I think the last one, we didn't have a great attendance and also there were quite a lot of missing apologies. So if you could check whether you can attend or not, please obviously send apologies if needed. Torridge are chairing this year, so that's why it's over in Casdown and we'll probably get a chair next year. Okay. And finally, for those of you who attended the webinar on the health outcomes for street attached people, there has been a link sent out if you haven't seen it. Thank you to everyone who did attend. I thought it was a really interesting, really wholesome kind of way of looking at a topic that is largely hidden, isn't it? And you know, for us to know that actually there's a lot of services out there to help and support is really good. So catch that if you can. And I don't know whether we might run another one at some point. Possibly something similar. Morning.
Chair, just a quick check. Time of the start of the meeting in
Casdown, 10 o'clock. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, that's that one. Item 4, declaration of interest.
I've received none unless any are declared now.
No, that's it then, thank you. So item 5, to agree the agenda between part A and part B. There is no part B, so we'll continue with part A. And then item 6, community safety updates. I'm going to pass you over to our community safety partnership officer, Tim.
Good morning all. Firstly, an apology. I was supposed to be joined by Kevin Conlon, Police Sergeant. Hopefully he's in bed with COVID today. So some of the updates he was going to give, I'm going to use his notes, but unfortunately he's unable to provide a follow-up data that I'm sure will do. He'll be back next week, I'm sure. Secondly, we've got some guest speakers today, Paul and David from the police, who are going to talk about the successful night bus scheme that ran over the summer and any plans for the future. So I'll introduce them again in a second. And then I want to cover some work we're going to be doing on scams, scam awareness amongst the public, some work on modern slavery that everyone's going to refer to in fact today. I'll go over that. And then something about plans against women and girls and some training that we're undertaking in schools to make people aware of of that, I can understand in a minute. So without further ado, I'll hand over to David and Paul from the police, who are going to talk about the successful night bus scheme that ran over the summer.
No,
Good morning, councillors. My name is Paul Butler. I am the alcohol licensing officer for North Devon, Torwich, a little bit of Mid Devon, a little bit of West Devon, and currently a little bit of North Cornwall as well. So my area is quite large.
Yeah, no, I'm Sergeant Dave Flynn. I'm one of the two alcohol licensing officers for Devon and Cornwall Police. And my areas are Cornwall and North Devon. So that's why we're here with you today, and that's why we've been working on this night bus project, which we did at Christmas last year, as you're aware, and then with your support, thank you all, we run it through the summer, so we'll be able to feed back to you how that's gone so far and what our plans are for this Christmas.
If I give a little bit of history, I attended a licensee meeting at the Tavern in July of last year. And one of the licensees mentioned about the night bus that used to run prior to COVID. As a result of which, it's myself and Donna Warway, who's a strategic problem solver, and also Karen Good, who is a road collisions prevention officer. Both Donna is a police staff and Karen is a serving police officer. So we put our heads together and worked out a night bus together with Stagecoach, with a view of going from Barnstaple just to Bideford. So it went from midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. So it was £2 a ticket, and we had 1,060 passengers through the 10 weeks that we ran the service. Now, a £2 a ticket, it works out very well. Now, with people having a few too much to drink, and we utilised the street marshals from Fever Boutique, the nightclub in Barnstaple, together with the SIAs, that's the door staff at Fever and the door staff at the Tavern, to just keep an eye on the bus station, which they did, and as a result of which we had not one incident on the bus throughout the Christmas period. It worked very well, and Simon Ford, who is the operations manager of the Stagecoach, was very complimentary about how the service was run. But also we had to be very complimentary about how the bus operators and also the bus drivers have dealt with individuals on the bus. So it went obviously through Bickington, Fremington, Yelland, all the way into Bideford, and then turned around and came back. The interesting thing is we were thinking it was always going to be one-way traffic from Barnstaple to Bideford, but we also found, because we advertised it through social media and posters, that there were a lot of customers coming from Bideford back into Barnstaple. So those people working nighttime economy in Bideford who live in Barnstaple were utilising that bus service. So that was a real positive. As a result of which, we have run the summer campaign, which started on the 6th into the 7th of July this year, and it finished on Saturday. So again, 10 weeks. But this is where we've gone from Barnstaple to Bideford again, where we've gone Barnstaple to Ilfracombe. If I can just share bear with me. There we go. Can everyone see that? I do apologise, it's not very big. But basically, we've got some numbers. So we also ran a service at Newquay, which is Cornwall, which I'm sure Dave will explain. But again, Ilfracombe to Bideford. So on average, without this Saturday, we've had 620 passengers to Ilfracombe and 832 passengers to Bideford. Without taking into consideration, we don't have the numbers at the moment for the 7th and the 8th of September. So on average, we had 227 passengers for all three services. Now, as you can imagine, that is very good. And both First Bus, who runs the Newquay route, and Stagecoach have done very well for themselves as regarding the cost of the tickets and also the funding. So predominantly the funding for the summer campaign has come from Devon County. Very much thankful for North Devon District Council provided funding, Torridge District Council provided funding, the PCC has provided funding, as well as Crime Stoppers. Because one of the biggest things we're going for is rural drink drive, is people drink driving. And although I'm in 21 years as a police officer, 14 of which was on ALVs, authorised firearms officer, and a traffic officer. So therefore, I first-hand knowledge of what drink driving does. So as a result of which, drink driving, violence against women and girls, making sure that people can get on that on the bus service and use that bus service. We also made the bus drivers very conscious that if a single female got off, followed by a single male got off, not known to each other, we're always very conscious about that, and wanted a report back from bus drivers. So violence against women and girls. So what we've done is we've looked at the viability of running the same service for this Christmas. So it'll run from the 2nd, hopefully run from the 2nd of November, and every Saturday, including Factory Friday, as well as the following day, either Saturday, and then New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, as we know, is on the Wednesday. So Factory Friday is not a Saturday, and obviously New Year's Eve is not, because the last Christmas we had very, very small numbers because it was the 30th of December, very small numbers because everyone was saving up to go on New Year's Eve. So what we're proposing to do is, again, 10 weeks or 10 services throughout that. I put in the mix about utilising a service from Barnstaple to South Molton. Those people who live in South Molton, the last service that goes from Barnstaple to South Molton, it's 8 o'clock in the evening. So when we got hold of Craig from Stagecoach, is their analyst, we asked him for numbers. Their numbers they average about 47 passengers. So what we were looking for is was to have the same service we have with Ilfracombe, so three times in the evening. It goes at 12:30, 2 o'clock, and 3:30. We looked at that. But what happened is the costings are a lot more because they haven't got that service. Because sometimes the last service either at Ilfracombe and Bideford are about 11:30. So yeah, we have those services up to that, and therefore we've got the numbers from the analysts. But what we were concerned about was whether it's a viable option having that service at South Molton. So, do you want to speak numbers, Dave?
Yeah, so
things.
the costings for the Bideford and Ilfracombe service have gone down by about a third from what they were in the summer because of the revenue that was generated with the passengers that have used it. And as Paul explained, that's just a continuation of a service, the bus service that already runs up until 11:30. Whereas with South Molton, because it's specifically being put on to service the nighttime economy in Barnstaple and people being able to get home, the costings for that will be a lot more. So in total for the 3 bus services, the funding we would require would be just under 11,000. South Molton on its own is just under £4,000, whereas Bideford and Ilfracombe are sort of £2,500. And like I say, we're really grateful for the support we got from the councils, from yourselves for the summer, and hopefully you will see the benefits for what you're able to invest back into the community to provide that bus service and that safe service for people to use, and the numbers that have been using it are testament to that. So like I say, that's the sort of figures that we're looking at. like with Ilfracombe, that came about because of feedback that we got from people in the community asking why there wasn't one to Ilfracombe, and that's the same that we found this time for South Molton. So for it to run, we would need to have that support, but hopefully, as it's done with Bideford and Ilfracombe, the requirement for that funding will continue to come down. And I don't know if you're aware, but at the moment there's a £2 price cap on bus fares that the government introduced. And my understanding is that ends at the end of this year. So if, say we were to run the service next summer and the bus company were able to charge a little bit more per ticket, which even if they charge £5, that's considerably cheaper than a taxi home from Barnstaple to Bideford or Ilfracombe. Hopefully that would then negate the need for funding because it would be commercially viable for the bus companies to provide that service to the community.
Just to, one thing that Simon Ford, the operations manager of the Stagecoach, brought in was the fact that people coming from Ilfracombe back to Barnstaple, the numbers were good. As I explained earlier, the numbers from Bideford back into Barnstaple were good. What he's concerned about, and this is still, we're still debating whether, you know, that service will be a viable service, is people coming from South Mole and back into Barnstaple. They think that will be very, very minimal. So that is a bit of concern. And it's because I brought the subject up because I go and speak to licensees all over my patch. And it was something that was brought in predominantly. I think it's going to be more one-way traffic. So at the moment, as a group of people, Donna, Karen, Dave and myself, as well as, you know, utilising our licensees and our neighbourhood team leaders as well, CCTV operators in both Bideford and Barnstaple have said it's brilliant because all of a sudden everyone's gone. You know, you've got 130. I think the largest number we had, wasn't it, Ilfracombe, was 133 we had to Bideford one evening, which was on the 9th and 10th of August, and 112 on the 2nd and 3rd of August to Ilfracombe. So the numbers are very good, and we're not too sure what those numbers would be to go to South Malta. Now, because I brought the subject up, because I thought it needed to be addressed, I'm just conscious that perhaps if we had the funding, we'd love to run the service, and I think more people would be receptive to that. The only issue we had, and I know that Kate Nichols is in the meeting, is taxi drivers. What we found is people coming back from Barnstaple to Bideford, taxi drivers have been hanging around where the buses are, and they've been taking people, for example, I don't know, they want to go to Appledore or they want to go to Northern. So rather than walking, they'll get a taxi. Taxi drivers like it because it's a shorter journey, but you're getting the frequent journey. The same with Ilfracombe, is the taxi drivers are hanging by the bus station in order for people to get, because Ilfracombe, you're going to go anywhere from the bus station, it's uphill, isn't it? So I think, you know, taxi drivers doing the same while they're going to Combe Martin. It's a lot cheaper getting a taxi from Ilfracombe to Combe Martin than it is from Barnstaple to Combe Martin. So, and the frequency of those journeys with taxi drivers is going to be a lot shorter.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy for any question.
Yeah, Councillor Beedham.
You knew it. Yeah. Thank you, Paul. I think it's David, wasn't it? Sorry if I got that wrong. Yeah, really good. I think it's a fantastic initiative and really helps keep people safer and I do generally feel safer actually, especially on the road and on a bus with other members of the public and a taxi, which I find interesting, but that's certainly a conversation I've had with my children. So I think going off script really, Chair, a bit cheeky, I know, but Stagecoach have recently announced their new timetables, which I've had quite a lot of correspondence regarding people that are working in Bideford now are stranded because the last bus, picking up the message I've got here, the Stagecoach has scrapped the 11:26 and 56 buses serving Inston, Flemington and Bickerton to Barnsall. And the bus service now leaves at Bideford at 10:45. So it's sort of almost double, you know, this is a brilliant initiative, but actually the standard offer has been reduced, and an awful lot of people that work in the nighttime economy in particular that haven't got the option of leaving at 11:15 now is potentially stranded in Bideford and are not safe. So I think my plea for you, Chair, is there any way the police could make representation to this? I've obviously sent an email to Devon County Council saying, hang on, you know, this is madness. Because the bizarre thing is the bus goes to Bideford and still goes to Appledore at 11:37. So obviously it's because people are leaving Barnstable to get home rather than Bideford, and then just driving itself back to Barnstable rather than pushing any passengers up. Well, it seems if it's coming back anyway, it might as well pick some passengers up, but at least. So yeah, off script really from your presentation, but I think there is a community safety aspect there with people being isolated, leaving work, care workers, etc., and people working on licence for trade. But
Yeah.
other than that, I think it's I mean, I guess the other observation I had is, especially with South Malton, but I think it's probably the case. Hands up, I caught one of the night buses, so I'm in the stats. There was only about 10 or 15 of us on it. You think, well, it's a lunking great double-decker bus. Is there not like a minibus or something like that that would be more efficient, cheaper, and less emissions, etc.? But I don't suppose Stagecoach own any of those. But
Well, if I can just reply to that, councillor, thank you for that, Chair. So basically is Craig McGee, who is the analyst for Stagecoach, looks at all numbers, and he's the person we speak to as regarding numbers we have, passenger numbers. I will speak to Simon. I was unaware of that, councillor. I must admit, and
it's stuff. Yeah.
we do have a lot of nighttime economy, and I'm quite surprised when I go around is how many people work in Bideford, nighttime economy, live in Barnstable, whereas I thought it would normally be people that live in Bideford. And I think it's the same in Barnstable as well. There are a lot of people in the nighttime economy who live everywhere. You know, someone was asking, why doesn't it go to Newton Tracy? I thought, how many people? You know, I know we need a bus service. I know, and it's lovely having a bus service during the day to get. There are a lot of elderly people that don't drive, and they rely very heavily on the bus service, quite rightly as well. So I will ask that question with Simon, and I will reply to you straight away, councillor, on that one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. If you could get back, let us know what happens there. If not, we can send a letter from the committee with our concerns.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course,
Thank
of course.
Thank you. Any more questions? No. Thank you very much for your time.
Do you mind if we pop off? We've got to speak to a resident as regarding a licensed premise in Torrington. Okay.
That's fine. Thank you very much for attending.
All right,
Thank you.
no worries. Take care. Bye.
Back to you, Tim. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a really excellent initiative, and I think it's something that if we can get it going for every summer, then it's a selling point for the area as well in terms of the tourist train and stuff. Those journeys.
Chair, does it help if we formally, I'm quite happy to formally move the right to Devon County Council with our concerns of the reduction of the buses from Bideford?
Well, let's see what Paul comes back with. He's obviously got a direct line to them. They may have a reason for it. Let's see what they say, and then and then we'll maybe write a letter then. Okay.
Sure. So to move on to scans. You may remember from a previous meeting that we got hold of some booklets, quite a large number of booklets around scam prevention for vulnerable people. And they were from an organisation, a charity called Think Jessica, who you may well be aware of. That it's a charity set up by the daughter of a lady who was scammed out of probably hundreds of thousands of pounds by various online scammers, clairvoyant services, all this kind of nonsense that unfortunately exists. And I think it's probably fair to say that us in this room know or have a fair idea of when we're being scanned online. We've got some experience of using online stuff, you know, a lot of our life is online now. But there will be people who don't have the same experience as us, but unfortunately have to use online stuff because other services stop existing really. So it's kind of driving people towards the internet, and with people with maybe a more trusting, nicer outlook than maybe us cynical people might have. So it's really important, I think, that we reach those hard to reach people, just to make them aware of the pitfalls of what can happen. We might be aware of issues when people come and cold call on us, but those online things, I think, are probably a little bit more hidden, a little bit harder to spot, maybe. So what we're planning to do, and we're due to meet today, actually, unfortunately, Kev's not here to finalise this. It's to run a series of events, really, to tell people about these dangers online, but as importantly, give them these booklets, which are really simple and straightforward, and illustrate the pitfalls that you can fall into if you are too trusting and get involved with scammers, unfortunately. So what we plan to do is go directly to these harder to reach groups. We think that we've identified so far places like Linton, places like South Molton, and then on Torry's side, Torrington and Holsworthy, where people might live. What we want to do is give a presentation, give out these booklets, and just kind of be a trust point really for people who have any concerns around these issues. Now, my offer is, of course, if there are any areas that you might represent that you might think might benefit from such a visit, and certainly the books will be available regardless, but that's kind of an extra bit. Please let us know, and we'll make sure that we do that. We're not planning on a day event or anything like that, just like a short, snappy presentation, just for people to understand the pitfalls that they might come across, really. As I said, we're not finalised that yet, so if anyone has any particular areas they'd like us to cover, please let us know. And also we've linked into our public sector housing colleagues from the council who have concerns around call us about energy efficiency and that kind of stuff, where there's lots of confusion, lots of there's a possibility of mis-selling to people that don't necessarily understand about energy. I don't understand that, but you know, all these areas where there are people could be scamming people. We just want to cover everything really, and as I said, give out these really important booklets to people to just read and understand. It's written in a really simple way.
Just ask on that, in what what settings are you doing that in? Is it, how are you getting these people, or are they sort of
As I said,
groups
not
of
anything
existing
finalised yet,
community groups?
but we thought about community centres, that kind of thing,
Okay.
sort of town halls, into town hall, for example, just look.
Linking with existing groups that are going to be attending anyway.
There's two points. There's the professionals, if you like, involved in those communities, but also public as well. They would definitely benefit from this input. So, as I said, if anyone has any particular areas they'd like us to cover, please let us know. We've not formulated the final presentations or the final plans for it. We're happy and willing to go wherever these kind of inputs are needed. And I think, just to come back to that point, we might be aware of these scams that we might be subject to, but that doesn't follow that everyone, particularly our elderly communities, they are particularly vulnerable. So we just want to make sure that they are aware of things, that pitfalls they might fall into. So any other questions on that before I move on?
Councillor Cant?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think overall we're relying too much of services being online, and I think North Devon Council are probably just as bad as any other council, and not offering an alternative. From personal experience, I do nothing online. I don't bank online. I pick up the phone. I don't use the utilities online. I don't even go to any links, and I'm always dubious even on my council device that I don't click on, and if I'm not sure, I will ring and ask somebody in member services. So I'm not in the elderly bracket. I'm just somebody that's not 100% sure with online usage. But I think as a council, we are heading, like everybody else, to too much online. So even if we, want to renew, our green waste bin, oh, you can do it online. I think Devon County Council, Blue Badge, I needed to renew one, do it online. I didn't. I did it all on the phone. I spoke to somebody. So I think local authorities are also, assisting in doing everything online. And I think that maybe we ought to be thinking of other alternatives. And it's not just want to say, Tim, it's not just older people.
No.
I don't do it. I won't even click on anything on here. I'm even unsure when it comes to training. I won't click on. And my colleagues will probably know that as well. I don't do it.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. I don't do it because I don't understand it.
And I think that's the point, is that we know to be distrustful of things, and maybe some other people don't even know that. They don't even realise that they might be vulnerable to being scammed, and that's the message really. I can wholeheartedly agree. I think that the fact that we have to do everything online now, and it's a modern world, I mean, everything's online, opens up a whole range of new opportunities for scammers and criminals really to exploit, and that's really what Drugs Con.
Councillor Maskell.
Thank you. I just wondered, obviously with this, winter fuel payment cuts potentially coming in, there's probably going to be a lot more scammers looking to target elderly people who are worrying about their energy. That's the sort of nature of it, isn't it? Where there's an increase in need, then these people will target it. Do you think that's probably going to be an issue?
Any opportunity, clever criminals will identify that and see that as an opportunity to exploit their victims. Clear, I think that's absolutely right. Yeah, so things like energy efficiency is a prime example. So something that we vaguely know about a little bit. We know that we could probably do better with it, but with people thinking, it's a great opportunity, isn't it, for people to come in and resell. It's the same as, perhaps a few years ago, people selling, if you're going door to door trying to scam people, then why would you bother doing that when you can do it online from even a different country? You don't need to, it's safe, it's easier for the criminal, it's easier, it's safer, it's less likely to be caught. So we need to be more switched on really to make sure that we don't fall against that thing.
I think, sorry, can I just say, you could look at targeting groups like the WI, for example. I know in my community, the WI are quite a big thing, and there's a fairly sort of broad range of ages, but people who probably fall into that sort of category of maybe being a bit vulnerable. And there's lots of, like, for example, I'm in Braunton, so in Braunton we have a forum. I live west of Braunton, and I think there's a lot of them around the community who have access to different groups that they might be able to target you, send you to sort of, the most appropriate.
And that's exactly the kind of thing we want to do, those kinds of groups, but also physically leave the information as well. So it's a two-pronged attack really. So we've got the laws, if you like, but also real resources that people can use and give out when they're available to this kind of thing. So that's what I do. That's a perfect example of where we're having target.
Councillor Beederman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So I think just thinking about it, we actually should be using technology or free resource there with our social media channels and using all those community chat groups. But it's those people that are IT literate that need to look after their family members, and it's, all the best will in the world, you're only going to get to 300, 400, 500 people. Whereas if we're looking after our own family members, we wouldn't leave their door unlocked, we'd make sure they lock the door. So, I think could we not be using our social media channels to say, look, if you've got family that are not necessarily IT literate, because it's not each thing, is it? Please look out for them. Please you know, this is how you can make sure that they're safe online and it's the biggest risk to them.
Yeah, sure.
And secondly, I have a question really. I mean, it fascinates me with the technology that's so clever these days that these people can still operate. I was watching Scammers last night on BBC, just happened to catch it. Why do people still ring people up? I don't understand how you cannot block, you know, simple, it can be, but the technology, there's just not just like this. So is there any chat going on about, you know, to me, it should be just outlawed. Any sort of cold call should be outlawed, full stop, whether it be doing your windows to please give me your bank details. There is no need, I always used to say this to my deal man. If you want something, get the Insight magazine, there's loads of local tradespeople in there that can help you. You know, I just think personally it should just be completely outlawed. I don't understand how anybody should be allowed to approach any, you know.
Yeah, on that, in terms of cold calling over the phone, there is a telephone preference service that people can sign up to.
Don't know.
Don't worry. Oh, but I don't get any cold calls, I've signed up, so. Okay, well, that needs feeding back.
Well, I mean, it comes on your mobiles now, isn't it? I mean, you know, half of the mobile calls I get now are completely garbage.
Really? I don't know.
This is a difficulty, so, you know, there are things like the service you talked about.
Yeah.
So there's, boxes that can block calls from no numbers and all that, but unfortunately, scammers will always want that.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the nature of it. This is why we need to just educate ourselves to make sure that we don't make silly mistakes. And you talked about box fish at the beginning.
Yeah,
Those things, you know, are really useful, I think, just to think about different ways that people.
the way they try it, yeah.
It's,
Mm.
you know, something will stop and nothing will spin up in its place, unfortunately. That's what we
The only problem we ever hear about after because most people are too embarrassed to admit that
Exactly,
when they've been scammed. So it's like, you know, I just think now would be using our social, I think smacked in the face of all kinds of cancer, but I would be using that free resource we've got to try and make sure that I'm thinking about my mum, what I should be talking to her.
Yeah.
It's that way we'll be a reach.
Okay, councillor Cat?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll just pick up on what councillor Beederman said about withhold numbers. I know that my private number is withheld, so I don't get cold callers. I don't give out my mobile, so it's all about limiting the risk. But what I was going to say was picking up, we're obviously focusing on older people, you know, being scammed. It is not, and I think that we need to get away. We're very blinkered, we're channel vision or whatever about it being older people. You know, I've just explained my own situation. It is not. It is ones that are not information sort of technology savvy.
Yeah.
It is not, and I think that we're looking at the big picture and saying it's older people. It is not. And I think we need to really come out of that and not even use that phrase. It's people that, you know, are getting caught. It's not just older people. So again, I think that, you know, here on licensing, we need to move away from older people. I don't put myself in that bracket. I hope not anyway. But, you know, I'm somebody that if I wasn't careful, possibly could get caught. But I don't class myself as a, you know, elderly. Thank you.
I think maybe older people are one of many groups who are vulnerable to this kind of scam, unfortunately. You know, the people who have got no IT skills at all.
But that could be somebody of my age.
No, of course.
Sorry, Chaz, I don't think anybody actually mentioned older people. It's winding me up. You know?
Yeah.
We all spoke and talked about it. It's vulnerable.
Yes, but it's coming up several times, older people, and I think that we need to look holistically at our community and say it's not just our older people that are vulnerable. You know, and move away.
I don't think anybody did, Councillor Brown. I'm absolutely convinced.
I think a couple of people of others have said older people, just trying to make a point, it's not just older people.
Different groups in society are more vulnerable to different types of scams.
Okay. Councillor Hunt?
Well, wouldn't class myself as an older person, but I have gone past the halfway point. Let's put it that way. And I'll be honest, I thought, and I think I still am a bit
I am quite savvy on internet and devices, but I still can get caught out. I've got the same process as yourself, councillor Cam, with the telephone. They still get through, and when I've got to the point now, I'm not nasty anymore, I get polite now. I've gone the opposite, and I said, how do you get my number? And it's third party pass on. That's where they got it from. So we tried everything, we still get them. I just say, no, thank you very much. Take my number off your database and put it down. I had one actually this morning. I'm glad to say I do have a lot of security on my devices. Because obviously as a councillor, a town councillor, trustees of different things, I've got to have those sort of things in place. But I actually thought, and they do actually use social media as well now, so much so, they might try one way, then they're going for another way. And the one I found a new way today, and this was actually only this morning, was they've actually, someone who you know on Facebook, and some people have like a WhatsApp, so you can send them a message via WhatsApp. I did, and I wonder why this person wasn't replying to me. I'm sorry, it was last night. And they should have done. And then it wasn't until I went into the WhatsApp, clicked on the phone number, totally different person. So they've now gone in and grabbed someone else's, and that was only in the last 24 hours. That's happened. So I've obviously let them know, I've deleted it, blocked, etc., and reported. But that's how they're getting in. They will always find a way in unless you've got on like those films we see where you've got that high flyer that's so tech savvy that they can block and get into other people's. Unless you've got someone like that, I think it's going to constantly keep on happening until they come up with a device that actually can totally block from different things, unless you actually put in a code or whatever. I don't know what the answer is.
It's tricky, I mean, I know.
And it's not just over.
No.
Might gone past the halfway mark, but I'm not out.
Well, myself, I mean, I've had experience of being scammed and, you know, luckily I've managed to spot it before it's happened, but bank things where people have tried to take money out of the bank account, you know, that's.
I have that all the time.
Yeah.
Phone up, can you press either 1 or 2?
Yeah.
Say, I just put the phone down. I said, no, it's no one, don't worry about it.
But there are things we can learn to make sure that we
Yeah.
can minimise our vulnerability to that.
But it's people that aren't tech savvy, like you say, that will, and especially so many people use Facebook now, social media, other sorts, Instagram, that are going to use this, that they're the ones now that are going to start caught out.
There are, I mean, there are lots of resources out there that can, you know, find out how the different scams are going, so, you just basically got a bit of BS filter, haven't you? You have.
Well, you don't answer the phone, it's the number's ringing, you do that.
Yeah, exactly. Councillor Milton.
First of all, I think it's an excellent initiative. I think probably long overdue, quite honestly, because I suspect no matter how smart any of us in this room think we are, if we haven't been scammed already, we will be sometime in the near future. And probably, doesn't matter how little you do, that one email that you open one day from somebody in your ward, apparently, will be the one that will be the scam one. And unfortunately, that's the society we live in, what it's going to be. What I was going to ask really was how you can deal with distribution of like the booklets you've got there, which will be really good to raise awareness, because you mentioned, you know, big population centres. My ward, unfortunately, hasn't got any of them. It's got a series of villages, and it's 15 miles from one end to the other of it. So near impossible to get it into one place. Is there going to be an opportunity to distribute this type of thing through the likes of parish councils or through the community halls or something like that? So they've got an access to a paper copy from the beginning and then can ask for anything else.
This is exactly what we bear in mind, really. That's exactly what we want to do. As I said, we've got plenty of copies. We want to make sure that they are everywhere that people might want to.
But how are you going to manage to distribute them?
Don't know yet.
Right, that's the challenge. Or is it a case of
Email.
use up realistically as councillors to make sure when we attend parish meetings, we can leave some of these.
That's
Quite happy for that.
certainly one of our thoughts already.
I'm happy to use that realistically for the various parish council, parish meetings, so go right.
Yeah.
Because I think, yes, it is going to be a diverse group of people you're aiming for.
Yeah.
And an awful lot of the very youngsters that are wonderfully tech savvy are also so fast at it that they probably will miss their scan in their rush to actually scan the latest purchase. And that's really easy to do. It doesn't matter what you do. in reality. So I think, yeah, awareness, and it is growing. It's growing all the time, really. You know, from a point of view of phones, well, I don't think I've got a hoop in hell in all the different roles that I've done in keeping my phone number out of availability. It's just you have to be blatantly rude, quite honestly. I mean, the home phone, I rarely answer the damn thing anymore, only on the basis you know 8 out of 10 calls on it will probably be a scam call. And it's become an increase, it's hit that a lot harder than the mobile to start with. So I think, you know, but there is every other way. I know one that's very recent is around small scale solar installations. Obviously, that's been picked up off a database, and there's a huge number of people that have home-based solar installations have been contacted, been informed it will need updating because it's now inefficient or it's dangerous. And the prices being quoted are phenomenal. But people are taking it because they believe in the expert that's at the other end. So it's not just about taking money off of your out of accounts or anything else. Sometimes it's about using your name. Sometimes it's about using your background. Sometimes it's about using access to your contacts, isn't it? And, you know, that what the WhatsApp one mentioned just now, what a great way of picking up contacts. All you need to do is leverage your way into 2 or 3 groups on somebody's phone. You've got a wonderful set of extra contacts. So I think it's a great initiative, but in places, I'm more than willing to help to make sure it gets out to some of those people that are beyond the difficult to access bit, because they're not within the groups that are likely to meet in a more sort of concentrated area.
That is one of our top priorities for all this.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Denton.
Thank you, Chair. I've taken 2 minutes to get onto our website, our own council website, and all our details are there for anybody to find.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so there isn't really anywhere to hide for 90% of people. And, yeah, so I could look up any one of us and we're right there. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what we do. We're in the public eye, aren't we?
Yeah. So us as councillors are vulnerable. Yeah, so I don't think you can protect yourself as much as what you think you can.
One of the Foxfish ones is about personal security, so I haven't done that one yet. I'll do that one
Yeah,
today.
but you can't personally protect yourself as a councillor because they're wide open.
I think you can opt to take your personal details off the website. I've left mine on because I run a business from my home anyway, so I mean, I'm out there. But I know you can take your personal details off, just have the council office as your address.
Right.
So if you look at some people, their details are not on there, depending on their own personal situation, so, yeah. Okay, now Councillor Hunt.
Yes, sorry, 3 things. One, as Councillor Milton said, one, because I cover 4 parishes, I wouldn't mind having some of those leaflets to give out, that'll be handy. And following up from Councillor Denton, actually I remember not on this term, but the term before when I asked the CEO if I could take my address off, I wasn't allowed unless I had a valid reason, even though I had a stalker. And I thought, what's a valid reason when I'm knifed or something? I don't know. So, and I think that all councillors, except I understand where you come from as a business, should not have their personal address on the websites, have their emails only, and a phone number. That's it. You don't need to have our personal addresses, and I don't know why we do. Actually, personally, I think
Legislation changed. Certainly, Devon County Council, you can not have your address code.
Looking at it again, I think,
yeah, perhaps it needs looking at again. But I don't think there should be no reason to have our personal address. I think we should be, the way we're going now in life, be more protected than ever, especially councillors.
Okay, any more questions on that? Okay, back to you, Tim.
Okay, it's one further update, and that's about violence against women and girls and scheme we're running in local schools. So this is both across North Devon and Torridge. We're delivering a scheme that's been presented by Bearfree, the for domestic abuse services in North Devon, in Devon, sorry. And this is an input designed to promote healthy relationships amongst our children, really.
the idea of, I think I mentioned this to you at the last meeting, sort of misogyny that is a growing issue, I think, in our society. To kind of address those sort of feelings, those sort of thoughts that people give out at that age, really. So we were originally, it's due to start any time now, really, in following school, Football Academy, Pilton Park, Piltrim Academy, and South Malden. So we've got. We're able to get some funds from State Academy to provide this. It's actually £3,500 to give out to do all this training. And I think it's kind of invaluable, really, to get that input into children at a young age, really, so that the attitude they may have in terms of their hopefully shaped at a young enough age for them to be respectful, to them to have healthy attitudes towards relationships that they may have in the future, just that once this training has been delivered, they'll be able to provide an evaluation to this committee to tell you how it's gone, really, just to tell you how many people agreed through it. So long term, I think it's not going to necessarily provide results straight away, but we really hope that we can affect people's attitudes, young people's attitudes, for to let them live a safer and healthier life as they go into adulthood. I think it's really important that we do it at that age. As I said, we'll provide an evaluation once that's going to be completed and do our findings about what attitudes we have come across in schools.
Okay.
Watch this space. Really quick. Yeah, I mean, I obviously get good initiative. I sad that we have to do it. It's not just part of the curriculum, really, and education focus. I mean, I'd be interested, Tim, when you give the evaluation, really, how you get to access the young people. Because I know, I've spoken in other situations where, you possibly might not get to see many children saying, oh, they had with lessons, etc. And I suggest if you only do it in break time, they'll probably find other things they'd rather be doing than talking to you. Whereas if you were getting into it as assembly and speaking, then you're speaking to more, but I'd just be interested in that side of it as well.
I think the key for schools, as always, is the timing. So there'll be times of the year when they are less busy than others, so it's easier to get in at that time. Fairfield ran similar schemes in some settings, so they've got the knowledge and experience of how to deliver it. I think it will be a session, it won't just be a drop-in thing, we hope.
Probably part of PSHE, would it be something like that?
I guess so, yeah. Yeah. But obviously the curriculums that they follow, the schools follow, are so often so tight, and it's difficult to squeeze these in, but rest assured that we will
Brilliant.
give our best efforts to make sure it's proper.
Thank you for your updates.
Okay.
It's really useful to have that now on a proper monthly basis, so thank you for that. And we'll just say actions next time, feedback on the Fear-Free org, feedback hopefully from Paul Butler about the stagecoach timings back to Biddyford and that, or back to Barnstable, isn't it? Those buses back, so that'd be great, thank you. Brilliant. Okay then, item 7 is the review of the Gambling Act Statement of Licensing Principles. This is around the update of the whole statement, which is done every 3 years. And if you remember, the consultation went out about the about that, plus the casinos amendments. So I'm going to pass it now to Katie Nichols, Public Sector Manager.
So thank you. It was the 9th of April that we discussed this report last time, and subsequent to that we've gone out for public consultation. Public consultation was undertaken for an 8-week period of time, and that was between the 7th of May and the 2nd of July. And attached to the report, Appendix A, are the responses from all people that had come in on the survey, and there are 13 of those, which is not untypical in terms of the numbers, sadly. and it doesn't gather any momentum. I was hoping that we might have a few more based on the no casino. I think we did a press release and so on pertaining to that. In terms of the responses, 82% agreed that a no casino resolution should be made, and there are a few different reasons cited for that, and they're outlined at 4.9. So factors such as casinos not being seen as socially responsible operations, lack of appropriateness to the area, addictive nature of gambling, potential damage to individuals and others, perception that it won't assist the area, links to increasing crime in areas surrounding the casino. There were 18% that obviously didn't wish to support a resolution being adopted, and at 4.10 there's another reasons that were cited, so that the casinos would provide an adult entertainment in a form that creates alternative choice, and if managed and run correctly can be much more than solely gambling. There's a view that each application should be reviewed on merit, and if and when permitted, attendance should be a matter of choice. In terms of some of the other comments that we have back, you'll note at 4.12 there were some that obviously we can't do anything about, so there were irrelevant comments such as the number of gambling establishments should be capped and slot machines should be banned and so on, and those are things outside the jurisdiction and control of the licensing authority. In terms of the report and the responses that come back, those factors that I've listed at 4.6, which is where I've listed the changes to the policy, so the insertion of various hyperlinks, changes to some geographical information, and a few new sections to improve the policy. There is really nothing as a result of the consultation that would lead me to recommend any changes to that. But what we need to consider today is really whether to make that recommendation from this committee on to strategy and resourcing that a no casino resolution would be adopted by the council. At the last meeting, we discussed that, and there was a healthy debate about some of the factors for and against. And I think obviously now we're on receipt of some of the comments from the public, we're better informed as to whether we wish to make a recommendation. As I outlined before, it's not something that we have to do on a statutory basis, but for the reasons outlined in the report, obviously it's something that it's good to consider, and something that can be encompassed in the Gambling Act statement of licensing principles. And if we were to do that in terms of adopting one, we would need to keep that under constant review in any event. So the recommendations in the report are to consider that feedback to the exercise outlined in Appendix A. Consider whether to recommend that they implement that or adopt that no casino resolution, and if in turn the statutory resources do, they would then have to recommend that on to full council, we need to be approved by them. The other part of the recommendation is obviously that the draft statement of licensing principles, which is found in Appendix B as a track claim document, is adopted or approved by strategy and resources. That would be done by strategy and resources, doesn't have to go on to full council.
Right, okay, thank you very much. So it's worth noting then that the no casino resolution can be changed at any time we wish to do so. And also that at the moment, I think it was the Secretary of State, they have the power, don't they, to select different districts that have casinos, and North Devon is not one of those, and we currently don't have any casinos. So all we're doing really is just giving ourselves that level of security that we're not going to be imposed to have casinos at any point. If we then decide we want to, that's fine, we can change it. But we're just giving that level of protection at this stage. Did anyone have any questions about the gambling policy and any changes or any you wanted to feedback to, Katie? Councillor Maskell?
Yeah, I just wondered, have we ever had any applications?
No, we wouldn't be able to actually had an application just based on the legislation as it stands per se, because there were a set number of casinos that were allowed nationally, and we weren't within one of those areas, so the legislation wouldn't have facilitated that. This is almost a gold plating of that legislation to say that if that legislation changes to the future, we would have something in place to protect the council if we felt strongly enough that we definitely didn't want the casino.
Thank you.
Councillor Bigman.
Yeah, sort of, I'll go with the question and then jump back again, Chair, if that's okay. So the question is, presumably, if we didn't adopt this no casino policy, somebody would have to submit a planning application. Licensing would be consulted under the licensing principles.
There would have to be a change in government legislation for us to be able to grant a licence. At the moment, we didn't.
That's the point I'm making, there's no real point.
The risk that was outlined.
We can't grant a licence for a casino because the government's saying there's a certain amount of casinos in the country and we're not having any more at the moment. If one closes down, that will give a place.
The legislation may then be amended to then look at opening that up to other areas. And the reason I sought to put this really on the agenda was that I'd had a meeting with a gentleman that was the old Gambling Commission compliance manager for the South West, and very knowledgeable, and he felt that it would be a good time to look at this and re-examine that because the minute risk associated with this, and it's not a big one. At the same time, we felt that in line with our court and whatever reasons that we chose, that we definitely didn't want one, this would be the best sanction in terms of putting something in the statement of principles to provide that absolute clarity in terms of our position. The risk is low.
Yes. Yeah, that's been.
Yeah, I'll come back to that. So I think the question we need to ask ourselves, so I mean, to me, the biggest, there's a thing in Bear Street, isn't it, like a slot machine place. I mean, it looks clearly awful, honestly. And it's not painted as a casino. I mean, I mean, Ilford, St Mark and Barnstable probably have more bookmakers than shops. So, and I think, they again create problems for communities if gambling is not happening responsibly. So I've personally got more of a problem out of the type of establishments we've got now than the threat of a massive great casino, because I think my sort of just thinking it through, I don't think there is a threat, it's my view. But what happened if, say, a major hotel chain came along, said, I will invest a fortune in North Devon, a real high-end hotel that would create so many jobs in this. No, it's not very, there's probably less likely than the casino group noise, but we've got a policy, and obviously would be part of that would be a casino that was aimed at high end, bringing people into the area. Would we really want to have closed off our, we might decide it's not the right thing for North Devon or an application coming, but effectively we would have closed it there before anything. Whereas we've got planning and we've got licensing objectives and all that we can pull back on. Anyway, at the same time, like I said, I don't want to scare any more of these sort of things that are trying to attract young 15, 16-year-olds into gambling for a lifetime. So it's I think you do see them in those sort of slot machine areas, don't you, like up in Pear Street, I described, whereas you probably don't see them walking into a Grosvenor casino in the middle of Birmingham, because actually they're quite strict, aren't they, compared to, I just wanted to put that out there that, it could come back to bite us if it was something that was seemed to be a massive asset. And as Bruce said, chances are probably nil that anywhere casino application anyway, that some major rich hotel chain want to come and invest a fortune in it. But I'm just thinking, would we really want to close that dead by having this policy? I know that of the 13 responses, 5 are from outside our council area, which is interesting.
I think the risk is the issues that come along with casinos, and it's all the associated problems. And I think we did discuss that last time, and the majority of people were against it. And I think that is something that if that mood changes, that's fine, but we can't then actually have one imposed on us if we've already got this no casino resolution in place. We can always change it if we wish to. That's the beauty, but we will have the control.
Well, I think, I agree. It's important to have control.
Yeah. Okay, so if there's no more questions, let's just double check the the recommendations then at 2.1. So it's to consider the feedback. Have you got any thoughts on that?
Well, I did make 0.5 and 13 outside our council area.
Okay, and then we consider whether to recommend a resolution to approve this to the Strategy and Resources Committee, and then that will go back on to full council, so we'll be voting on it again. Okay, so can I have a proposer that we will take all those recommendations in one? Okay, seconder. Okay, everyone in favour? Please show. Those against? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you.
Can we just have a little bit of detail about the reasons for going with those recommendations? It can be as simple as saying, you know, that the committee have considered the report, and that some of the reasons that I sort of pulled from the room talking in terms of the no resolution is that applicants are prohibited from applying for a new casino licence to the council anyway, so there is currently no legal possibility of a licensed casino in North Devon, and those are the two sort of things that I've noted down. If there's anything else that you want attached to that decision.
I think your comment, Chair, really wasn't it? It's the fact that we retain control.
Yeah, and also
I think it's clarify that
because around the fact that the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport can decide that North Devon might be an area where casinos would be allowable.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
if that at some point that should
you
change,
are prepared for,
we are then ready to make our own decision on whether we would want a casino. Otherwise, it would be impertinent on us.
And just in terms of the because I know that planning's been talked about as well. Of course, what we're talking about is totally separate to the planning process. So this is what, as it currently stands, nobody can apply to North Devon Council for a casino licence. That's how it stands, isn't it, Katie? Whereas if that's changed in the future, the council will be allowed to accept those applications for licences. The planning will of course go on the development plan and everything else, and the planners will be, you know, the planning department will be probably, you know, consulted in terms of that, because obviously there'll be significant implications, but they will operate as two separate processes.
Yes, I'll go over to chemicals.
I know at the last meeting we discussed some of the in our sort of in the debate that was had, we discussed in a little bit more detail about some of the deprivation, and I know one of the things that you pulled out from the report, Louise, was in respect of where we were in North Devon in terms of income deprivation, because in the policy or the statement of principles it cites that of the 316 authorities in England, North Devon is ranked 150th most income deprived, and 7 neighbourhoods in the district are in the most 20% deprived area in the country, and we're particularly interested in that. And I think that might add a healthy element to the rationale. I did have a little look through some of the reasons that other authorities were citing when they were making these kinds of decisions, and maybe if I just go through some of the observations, I'm not sure if that's helpful or not, as to what other local authorities have considered. That might help spark a debate, I'm not sure.
No, I think that would be helpful. I think it's probably helpful for me to just give a bit about why we have to include the reasons and what we're sort of trying to protect the council against. And that's because Katie helpfully included it, a reference to judicial review in her report, and every decision that the council makes, regardless of what that decision is related to, we are potentially vulnerable to an application for judicial review against us, which is essentially somebody who has a necessary interest saying that we have erred in law in some way, shape or form. And so it's important that whenever a decision is made, that there are some reasons as to how you guys have come to that decision. So it's just useful for us to try and capture that, I think, a bit.
Yeah.
I think you've got
You'll be aware of that because of the planning committee. We can have very particular about that. But
yeah, I think that if we went back to the last minute, we probably teased out a lot of that.
Yeah.
And in our discussions that we had about some of the reasons why we wanted to go out for consultation on this, and we felt that as a committee that was something we wanted to explore a bit further. But yeah, the types of things that others have cited are, and obviously picked from different authorities, and this is some example. District is rural, predominantly residential in nature, will be out of character for the area. Nighttime economy is centred around a number of town centres, and the council wouldn't want to create an imbalance between competing town centre economies. Town centres are located in proximity to residential premises. Casino located in a town centre would increase the likelihood of nuisance. Gambling can lead to debt, divorce, crime, and increase the stress of life on a low income, something which is particularly important in the current economic climate. Support the council's work that it's doing with partners in tackling social inequality and debt, based on the council's commitment to improving the well-being of people in the area, addressing poverty and the impact of poverty on communities. There was research that suggests that casinos are associated with higher bankruptcy rates in localities and increased likelihood of a person becoming a problem gambler. The links between problem gambling and the negative impact on communities. Promotion of licensing objective, protecting children from harm and vulnerable people, tackling poverty being a priority for the council. Then obviously gone into detail, like I was saying, about where we were in terms of deprivation and looking at their stats specifically. Research showing that disadvantaged social groups who experience poverty, unemployment, dependence on welfare and lower levels of education and household income are more likely to suffer the adverse consequence of increased gaming, problem gaming leading to debt, divorce, crime, mental health issues, suicide, which can have a negative impact on communities. Those are some of the things that I've kind of teased out from different local authorities, and I think perhaps the overriding one for us to consider is really whether the passing of the resolution would be in line with the council corporate plan. We've got those key factors of financial security, pride of place and prosperity, which might be the ones that we wanted to sort of factor in terms of making that rationale for our decision as robust as we can.
Yeah, I just found it was the minutes from April meeting. So we did discuss the whole of the gambling statement, and then under no casino.
I think what David just said, Jeff.
Yeah, all of the things, yeah.
It's against our core principle in the mission statement, especially with regard to the free business.
I think I just got a few concerns that we've got there. The principal reason to my mind is physical presence of a casino and what goes up with it. Because we've got to be quite careful. What we don't try and put in my mind is all our reasons been a virtue signalling approach for not gambling. Because after all, anybody who wants to gamble will pick up one of these and they can gamble to their heart's content day and night using their credit card until they've killed it without physical presence of any casino whatsoever. So my mind, just within your reasons, yes, I don't agree with that. I mean, the National Lottery is the first legalised gambling thing that most people in the room might well have taken, or they've taken at some point or another. But in reality, just be careful we don't try and deal with all the virtue around it. Let's deal with the specific reasons that we don't want a premises here of that sort. And that's what it's really all about in my mind, I think.
Yeah.
On that note, I think it's very valid to give, but just to provide that absolute clarity that when you're dealing as a committee with an application for a premises licence, an AGC or whatever, then you can't use take moral obligations. But the guidance from the Gambling Commission cites that when considering the resolution, you can take into consideration moral issues that have been raised. So just to provide that level of assurance that if you did cross that boundary, there's not an issue in the same way as it would under premises licence where that is not permitted.
Yeah, I mean, it's about the licensing objective, it's about protecting people at the end of the day, isn't it? Yes, Councillor Denton.
Chair, but also we are upholding what the findings were with the 80+%
yes.
of people being against it.
Yes.
So we are sort of supporting the
Yes,
findings.
that's very true. Yeah, yeah. That's been.
I mean, to me, the officers have taught us how to do it actually, because I think we open ourselves up. You know, we haven't got a problem. There's a tiny chance of somebody want to come and submit a application, and there are other ways that you can consider it, planning and licensing at the time. So I think from what I've heard, I'm a bit reluctant, because you could actually be yourself up a massive great fine, because you're saying, we're not open-minded to this, we're just going to ban anybody applying. So to me, you know, from what the officers are saying to me, that actually we're opening ourselves up to a judicial review, potentially an expensive fine for something that the chances are 99.9% chance will happen. Because we're flapping around trying to find, there's something flapping around. We're flapping around trying to find reasons.
But our legal officer, see what she
The
says.
reasons for talking about the reasons for talking about the reasons is just about being able to give an explanation to members of the public so they understand what's gone on, the decision-making process, which is particularly important if you've had a lot of discussion in a previous committee meeting. Because remember, if somebody's saying watching this back, they might say, they haven't talked about any of that, the stuff that I thought they would take into account. Whereas of course you've already had that conversation. So it's really crucial to make a point that actually it's not just been this meeting where you've considered it, and to gather those most salient relevant points that you feel are the reason for going with the officer's recommendation. So we can say, you know, the usual stance to say, you know, the committee considered a report by as well as information given at the committee, which highlighted the following. We can mention about the numbers of the 80% in terms of the consultation, and essentially then the ending bit is just about, and you know, and it's the proposal was to recommend, and that was, you know, agreed.
Essentially, we had a discussion, we put it out in the consultation, people who replied to the consultation agreed with us. We're acknowledging that agreement, and we're saying that, okay, yes, we want to move this on strategy and resources. To make that a policy within the council.
They're going to come back.
So we have voted on it, we're now just saying that's how the region has worked. And going to cited the reason we came up with at the last meeting. So it's process. So you're happy now, Carol, that those reasons
So do you want the reasons to come in full from Katie's list along with the consultation results?
I think that would help
to bring them up to.
That would help clarify the reasoning.
And the information given at the committee.
That full list that Katie read, I would still, just, well, I do think quite a few of them were actually.
I've pulled from various other councils the type of things that they're.
I think we've got to be relevant to our call.
To what you discussed.
Whether you want me to read back through and say we like this one or not, that one, I don't know how.
I think we leave it in the consultation.
Sorry, I'm getting lost now. Those items you cited, are those the items we discussed at the last meeting, aren't they?
No, that was just to give some food for thought in terms of when we make the decision as a council and provide a level of reasoning. That's some of the examples that other local authorities nationally had cited when they had done that process to provide a level of robustness to their decision making. And that's what I felt, just some of this conversation from the previous meeting, particularly about our level of deprivation.
Those bits were what we said. Yes.
I just wanted to get that thread between the two meetings to ensure the things are carried.
Okay.
Change it.
I think a suggestion could be that if you feel that the April minutes accurately represent what was discussed, then we can refer to the. In terms of those.
I was just going to have a look at those. I'm not sure. Let me just jump and check that.
And that's the deprivation point is in North Devon, 11% of the population is income deprived. And of the 316 local authorities in England, North Devon is ranked 150th most income deprived.
That's why I've seen I never like that.
Seven neighbourhoods in the district of 20% most income deprived areas in the country. That's the main one. Well, I think
add them in.
And potentially, okay, so make reference to April, the deprivation, and as a sweep up clause include that it doesn't meet with the council's corporate plan objectives. Then that's nice and robust from a legal perspective.
And we're supporting the 80%.
Yeah, got that one, 80%, yeah. So essentially, we'll say the committee considered a report by the lead officer of commercial regulation. Is that the right title?
Yes.
And the information provided at committee, which highlighted the following: consultation reports, the previous committee discussion, and we've got the no resolution, no casino resolution would not, the adoption would be in line with the council's corporate plan objectives to achieve financial security, pride of place and prosperity, and people matter. And then the deprivation point as well. And therefore the proposal was to recommend to Strategy Resources that a no casino resolution be adopted by the council.
Yeah.
Lots of nods, which
Yeah.
is positive.
Yeah, it's really useful then, and when we do the next report online, we can kind of put that minute
Yeah,
through and they've got that crystal clear.
Yeah. But also go back to my original point, was saying that it's not set in stone, it can be changed.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, as and when an opportunity, changes or comes our way. It's just a security blanket at this stage, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, everyone happy now? You happy, Carol?
Yes, very. As long as Carol's happy.
Right, so we've done the vote, so we're done on that one, so thank you very much. Right, back to the agenda.
Moved, Chair. Noted.
Yeah, did you have anything else for us, Katie?
No, that's all, thank you.
Lovely, thank you very much for that, excellent work, thank you. Right, item 8 then, licensing and community safety subcommittees. I believe we have one.
Noted, Chair.
A sub A and the minutes are with the chair of that sub.
Oh, you've got them, haven't you? Yeah.
Oh, we've got it.
So we've got to do that with subcommittee A from the 14th of May 2024. Remind me what the licence premises was?
Vineyard,
That was it.
yeah, sort of, I could think
Yeah.
of it, sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so do we have a mover for those minutes? Thank you, seconder. All those in favour, please show.
Just have to sign.
Any against? Any abstentions? No, that's it, all unanimous again, thank you. And that's it. Thank you very much, everybody.